In 1926, the government of Mexico attempts to secularize the country. But as the federales murder clergymen, a priest and a retired general join forces to start a rebellion. Together, they fight for religious freedom and for greater glory.
Rachel, David, you've just seen it. Rachel, tell me about this movie.
It's this war that took place in Mexico from 1926 to 1929, and 90,000 people died.
It's really remarkable that this kind of intense religious war that went on in Mexico, and essentially it was a civil war, doesn't really get much publicity until this movie.
Yeah, well, and actually it sounds like they tried to bury some of the information. It's not a period in time that people are particularly proud of or want to talk about, but It's an amazing story.
I didn't even know about the Cristeros War, so going into this movie, it was really fascinating to learn this amazing story about this horrible religious oppression. And there were priests that were literally shot and killed dead in their church or hung from the church rafters. And it is a very historically accurate movie.
It is prohibited to say Mass, Padre Robles. Haven't you heard? I forgive you, my son. And I pray to God to grant you mercy.
But then you realize how dedicated all of these people were, that this was something that they really believed in, whether you were a Christian or not.
You have someone else who has no faith, who still is so committed to the freedom of other people that he is willing to risk his life. And then, somewhere towards the very end of the movie, every non-believer becomes a believer.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's this very strong Catholic message of this is really the way that you should consider living your life.
I have to disagree with you a little bit. I don't feel like the religion in this movie beat me over the head or it was really oppressive.
Yeah, and I agree. For the most part, it didn't. But the end was just this very divisive ending that made me feel like, you know, as a person who isn't a Catholic, I can't celebrate these people because this really is a movie about this religion, and this really is for this culture.
Okay, well, I see your point, but I didn't feel like I was proselytized by this movie.
You know how important this is to me.
It's only temporary. Besides, I'm sure there'll be plenty of clandestine services.
So the girls can feel like they're doing something shameful when they go to Mass.
What do you want me to do?
Andy Garcia is amazing as the retired general who's called out of retirement. And what's fascinating about his character is that he's somewhat of an atheist.
Yeah.
He's hired by the Cristeros to fight the war for them.
That's why we need a commander-in-chief. What about your military friends?
Well, they suggested Enrique Gorostieta. I doubt he's sympathetic to our cause. I don't even think he's Catholic. We are not hiring him to pray. He's a great man, capable of doing great things.
When you have a movie that has a historical background and you are playing a character that you truly love, you get great performances. And my goodness, Eva Longoria.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen her really just melt into a character so much so that she is kind of hard to distinguish at first. You don't even realize.
Don't even know it's her.
Yeah, she's unrecognizable.
We really have to talk about the young man who steals this movie. And that's Mauricio Kuri, right?
Mauricio Kuri is going to go on to have a very prosperous film career.
Yeah, you keep an eye on him. He's going to be amazing.
He embodies this character, which is such a tough, demanding role.
Just say the word. You can go home.
I love you. Viva Cristo Rey.
You see his character go from being a little kid at the beginning of the movie to this very brave young man who really fights for what he believes in.
Yeah, who really is a man.
And Peter O'Toole's in this movie as well.
Oh! Yes,
we forgot to talk about Peter O'Toole. Oh my God,
goodness.
How did we forget him?
Short appearance in this movie, but indelible. I mean, your heartstrings are attached to this man.
Padre, the federal soldiers are coming. You must hide.
Hide? Would I hide from God?
Please, Father.
Who are you if you don't stand up for what you believe?
But behind every great cast is a
great director.
Generally so. So who do we got at the helm of this picture?
Dean Wright directed this movie, and he was the special effects supervisor on a lot of really big movies. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, Titanic. So he's worked with some amazing directors, and all I can say is their brilliance rubbed off on him. Leah Aldridge, one of the reviewers on our show, likes to talk about the hills and the valleys of an action movie and how difficult it is to balance those. And Dean does an amazing job of balancing the small stories and the small moments with these huge tension-filled action scenes that are the battles in the movie.
First of all, he creates a world that is very believable. There's not an actor or an item that sticks out or pulls you out of that world. The other thing that's interesting is the use of Spanish.
Que Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe te bendiga, mi amor. May she watch over and protect you. Tell Papa I love him.
The whole world has a flavor. There's little words and pieces that are thrown in. It's a complete microcosm.
Production values in this movie are absolutely astounding. You're immediately immersed in the world of the late 1920s in Mexico, and everything is perfect. The art direction, costumes, wardrobe, makeup, everything is perfect in this movie.
Well, it sounds like you two are not at a war over how you feel about this movie.
Certainly not.
So why don't you take your tickets and give us your vote?
I love this movie, except for the last 10 minutes, where it developed a religious agenda. But for a great movie and a great piece of history, I give it a see it.
Dean Wright has put together an amazing cast and has created a very compelling story and an almost amazing movie. I give it a see it.
Cheers!
Viva Mexico!